I've covered a few One Piece fights and slammed some of them for being poorly written, but after leveling up my analytical abilities, I believe that I can better explain the problem. The fights I'll be re-examining are all epic and exciting, but they aren't tactical, which heavily lowers their grade, since I'd say tactics weigh about 40% on the grade of a fight. In my guide for writing strategic fights, I laid out two main tactics for combatants to use: weak spot and adaptation. In these One Piece fights, I'll only be looking at the pivotal tactics. On a more positive note, it's not like Oda can't write fights. Mr. 2, Double Finger, Crocodile, and Enel all had well-written fights with interesting strategies. Oda just doesn't seem to be able to do that consistently, especially in the time skip. I'll start with Luffy vs Katakuri. Before the two even start, Jinbei establishes the villain's weak point as water. That'll come in handy when Luffy fights him, or not, since Luffy doesn't use this at all. Early in the fight, Katakuri establishes that he's faster than Gear 2nd and stronger than Gear 3rd. Additionally, he can slip through attacks like a Logia user. Luffy's basic abilities are neutralized, so he'll either need to exploit a weak spot or adapt. The first time Luffy actually gains the advantage is when he discovers the weak point in Kuri's future vision. When he's mad, his precognition is imperfect, which allows him to miss attacks and prevents him from slipping through attacks. By combining Gear 4th and breaking Kuri's focus, Luffy's able to gain the advantage. That's a good adaptation. Katakuri regains focus, eliminating that advantage, so Luffy adapts by taking his sister hostage. That's decent, but then he starts reusing tactics that Kuri already neutralized. He should be trying to break Kuri's focus again, since it's been his only effective strategy. Then Luffy adapts by pulling future vision out of thin air. Like I said in my guide, weak spots show intelligence and adaptation shows intelligence and creativity. Getting Deus Ex Machina power-ups out of thin air shows nothing and is unsatisfactory. Or maybe it shows plot armor. Back to the fight. Luffy's future vision allows him to be able to land blows, but Kuri shouldn't be able to get hit unless his focus is broken. That's a flaw. Luffy pulls out Deus Ex Snake Man, which enhances his speed. I think the speed and future vision even the playing field, and the fight is won with endurance. Let's recap. The water weakness is never used. The focus weakness is barely used and irrelevant to his victory. Somehow Luffy is able to land blows without the focus weakness. Finally, Luffy gets 2 Deus Ex power-ups to really turn the tides. Oda wrote in 2 weak spots to exploit and barely used them. Instead, he focused on flashy power-ups. Like Katakuri, Kaido had his strengths and weaknesses established ahead of time. He has invincible dragon scales, but his kryptonite is Odin's swords, the only thing that can damage him. Guess whether or not this weak spot will be used. On top of that, Luffy trained for a new move, Internal Destruction. If his scales are invincible, attack him internally. Sounds like a good adaptation. But is he gonna use it? Early in the fight, Luffy is already harming the invincible Kaido with his haki punches. What was the point of setting up the fact that only Odin's swords could harm him if Luffy was just gonna power up and punch him anyway? Questionable writing. If he was using Internal Destruction, that would be fine, but it doesn't look like it, and there's no dialogue implying that he is. Even the wiki doesn't say so. So Luffy adapts to Kaido's strength by getting even stronger. That's not a good tactic. Luffy adapts even more by using Deus Ex Infusion to smack the dragon around without touching it. Yet another mid-battle power-up. Kaido can also use Infusion, which removes Luffy's advantage. After losing and coming back, Luffy and Kaido fight with Infusion again. No adjustments to the strategy. Straw Hat starts using different Gear 4th forms that don't make a noticeable difference, except for using Bound Man to defend against flames. The fight is interrupted. Luffy returns for another round with Deus Ex Gear 5th, and the rest is history. Let's recap. The sword weakness isn't used. The Internal Destruction weak spot / adaptation isn't used. Luffy adapts by getting stronger, and Deus Ex Machinas in the form of Infusion and Gear 5th. I don't know what's wrong with this man. In my guide, I said that only one strategy is needed for a fight to get a passing grade in tactics. Oda literally sets up 2 strategies in both of these fights, but doesn't use them properly. Instead, he'd rather focus on granting Luffy new power-ups that require no intelligence or creativity. It's like he created a puzzle piece, but for some reason, he can't fit them together to get the full picture. It's bizarre because Luffy vs Crocodile does what they don't. Luffy uses one strategy in round 1 and 3, water and blood respectively. Both are weak spots / adaptations as well. Luffy vs Katakuri could have just been Luffy using water and breaking Katakuri's focus for the win. Luffy vs Kaido could have just been Luffy learning to use Odin's swords, or teaming up with Zoro wielding the sword, and Luffy using internal damage for the win. He made it so simple for himself, but then messed it up. Is it because he saw how strong other battle manga heroes were getting, and he felt the pressure to give Luffy a bunch of flashy new power-ups and forms? I don't get it. Next is Zoro's fights. In Zoro vs Mr. 1, Zoro is naturally superior, but Das Bones' Devil Fruit neutralizes Zoro's swords. Adaptation. So how does the swordsman respond? He does the same thing for 90% of the fight, despite it never working. He knows he can't cut metal, but he doesn't adapt. This makes Zoro look stupid, and makes the tactics of the fight poor. I'm sure some fanboy will try to justify this by saying it fits his personality, or it was his only option. Those are excuses. Like I said in the video covering the fight, he could have adapted to Mr. 1's human weaknesses, like his need to breathe or the fact that metal is weak to fire. Oda got creative with Luffy vs Croc. Why can't he do the same here? Finally, Zoro adapts with a Deus Ex Machina that allows him to cut through steel. This is later explained as Haki, but that opens up plot holes, so I'll ignore that. Imagine if Luffy beat Croc with Haki instead of blood. To recap, Zoro's fight has no adaptation for 90% of the fight, and his final adaptation is a power-up spawned from thin air. Zoro vs Kaku is similar to the Daz Bones fight, except Kaku's arguably evenly matched before making adaptations. For the earlier sections of the fight, Kaku is trying out different moves, while Zoro is reacting. At least there is strategy on the villain's side. Both are even, so Kaku adapts with his unstoppable combo, Giraffe Shower and Nose Pistol. This is forgotten for the time being. Finally, the fight decides to establish a long-term win condition. Kaku's iron body is too strong for Zoro to cut through. Didn't we already do this with Mr. 1? How can he cut steel but not Tekai? That's a nitpick. But if it was Haki that Zoro used on Mr. 1, shouldn't he be able to cut Tekai with Haki? That's another nitpick. Let's focus. After the Tekai issue is brought up, both characters just start using random new moves that don't contribute to their effective strategy. Kaku should be either using his unblockable combo or relying on Iron Body, while Zoro should be looking for a way to cut through Iron Body, but neither of them are doing that. Kaku suddenly changes tactics to Four Sword style. Why would he need to do that when he already had the invincible combo? Zoro's new Leopard attack is the first thing that breaks Tekai, but how? How did Zoro adapt to Iron Body? If any move should have cut Kaku, it should have been Line Song, which also cut Bones. That would at least be set up and payoff, but then I'd ask why he waited so long to use Line Song a second time. In fact, why did he wait so long to use Leopard Spinning Balls? Does he not know his own moves? Was he scrolling through a list of skills and clicking them and see what works? Kaku brings back a different version of his unstoppable combo. Zoro responds with Deus Ex 9 Sword style and cuts through. This has a similar problem to Luffy's fights. Instead of making it simple and giving Zoro a weak spot to target, there are so many other factors added into the fight that make it worse. Why did Kaku stop using the unstoppable combo? Why did Zoro stop trying to cut Tekai? Why did Leopard Balls do damage? Why did 9 Sword style cut through Tekai? At least the Bones fight power-up had somewhat of an explanation with the flashback. Zoro's fights really suffer from button mashing, which is when One Piece characters just throw out a bunch of new moves for the sake of showing them, rather than actually trying to win. Both of them have atrocious win conditions as well. At least with Kaido's invincibility, 2 weak spots were set up, but with Zoro, his opponents have no weak spots in their invincibility. Zoro just has to raise his power level higher than theirs. The reason I didn't even suggest anything for Zoro vs Kaku is because they were already evenly matched before Kaku started using Tekai, so I wouldn't expect the Pirate Hunter to even have the opportunity to try anything fancy. In conclusion, writing a tactical fight isn't that hard. Weak spot and adaptation are 2 easy methods to ensure quality, and you only need to use one. For some reason, in these fights, Oda chooses to ignore weak spots he sets up, show off a ton of irrelevant new moves through button mashing, and give the hero shiny new power-ups and transformations that weren't set up ahead of time.